All right, today is the day. We are going to be talking about how to use master studies in your original paintings to bring in your favorite techniques and styles from the masters. And what we're going to be talking about today is applicable whether you are talking about a modern master or an old master, or somebody who is kind of in between, like Sargent. Sargent was the inspiration for the painting you are seeing unfolding today, and if you haven't already checked out my previous 2 videos on this topic, I will link them below in the description, and I would highly recommend that you check them out because that's going to give you a great deal of context for what you're seeing me paint today. And before I get into this, I want to go ahead and talk about the main problem that I see come up from artists completing master studies. And that is that maybe they do a really good job on the master study. They get toward a new level of looseness, or they feel like they have really gotten comfortable with light and shadow in a way that they haven't been comfortable in their own paintings before that point. But then they go and they try to apply it to their own work, and it just feels like all the lessons you learned somehow went out the window. And if this has happened to you, you are not alone. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how you can actually bridge the gap between successfully completing a master study or master copy and applying the techniques and the stylistic tendencies that you picked up from doing that copy and bring it into your own work. Now, jumping right into this, the first thing I want to really emphasize is that the biggest thing that sets you up for success here is the similarity and the strategic similarity specifically between your reference and the master painting that you were learning from. So specifically in this case, I talk quite a bit about why I chose the reference in the painting I did in my video from 2 weeks ago. So if you are curious about how to best set yourself up for success, definitely go back and watch that video. I think this is one of easily the most difficult things for painters to learn and get really good at as they are going from proficient amateurs or hobbyists to being able to paint at a professional level. Oftentimes, the weak link is really that the reference doesn't set you up to make a professional level painting, and that's extremely difficult to overcome through painting skills and imagination alone. So quickly, I want to recap some of the really important things I was looking for with the reference for the painting you're seeing me work on right now. First and foremost, what drew me to this reference was really seeing the connection between the color palette used for Sargent's portrait and the colors I could start to see coming through in this reference. That was my main driving force. And I think if I had to choose one area that I really wanted to focus on as far as what I wanted to take away from this painting experience, it wasn't actually Sargent's looseness, although I absolutely could have chosen to focus on that. But instead, I really wanted to zero in on the color and getting that much more nuance in terms of my value range and the color harmonies that I brought into the flesh tones of this particular piece. And interestingly, as I went through creating this painting, I really kept thinking about just how much I was enjoying the color here. And that is not a coincidence. I think these two things really fed into one another. I understood that I really wanted to go after the color because that was the main thing that jumped out at me in this particular painting. And I think my focus around that and my interest in it really helped me to prioritize that in the painting, which is why it was able to come out the way that it did. Interestingly, on the note of looseness, I had a moment when I was in the block-in stage of this piece, and you're welcome to rewind this video and skip back to this point just to see what I'm talking about. But I literally was painting and I paused and I just had a laugh and was like, well, this isn't what Sargent's block-in would have looked like. And I laughed because I felt confident that I would be able to save the utter mess that was the first few minutes of working on this and like really establishing the drawing. In hindsight, it just kind of looked silly to me. And interestingly, I think that if I had been painting with another group of painters and I really wanted to be on my A game for every part of this, I probably would have had a different block in. I probably would have been more careful and more thoughtful about the drawing. But that's just one of those little differences that I have started to notice in myself, and I just try to honor and not overthink. That there are certain situations where I am really able to turn on my A game and push myself for every phase of the painting. And there are absolutely times where I might be a little bit bored or impatient, and that shows through in that particular stage of the painting. And hopefully I'm able to rein that in and bring this on home. And that's really what I have seen in this painting so far. If you're curious, by the way, on what those two circumstances are, I tend to, I think, paint at my best when I am doing the East Oak Studio live streams. I will link their channel down in the description if you haven't already been watching those. They're absolutely wonderful and their channel is phenomenal, and I really enjoy every moment that I get to spend with those artists. And conversely, the times when I think I am the least patient and honestly really just want to kind of get through a painting session. I want to have it done. I want to have like my YouTube footage done. I want to have one more piece that's up on the wall. Whatever it may be, I tend to have those moments when I am painting by myself in my studio. I've talked about this quite a bit on my channel already. I will include links to some relevant videos if you're curious on hearing a little bit more about that. But I wanted to point this out, and I really enjoy taking opportunities to point this out because I think it's important to normalize that you aren't going to paint the same way in every circumstance. And that's okay. The fact is that having that knowledge helps you to set yourself up for success even better than you could have before. And that's really how I see this. I know how to set myself up for success in terms of prioritizing enrichment time with other artists, and I know that there are sessions where I'm probably not going to be on my A game the whole time, and I have strategies around how to mitigate that. So that being said, the drawing and the looseness were not the number one focus of this particular piece, but I really did fall in love with the range of color that I was able to achieve and the little nuances in terms of the flesh tones that I could explore. And I realized that that has probably been kind of an unconscious area of growth for me for the past couple of months. I've seen it in several of my more recent pieces, and I think there's probably something like that going on for all of us all the time, and the trick is to be able to acknowledge that, like to really recognize the areas where we are improving and doing better than we've been able to do before, and really honor the fact that that area is getting better. I think one of the greatest disservices we can do for ourselves as artists is to see an area where we are improving and to literally take it for granted in the sense of, well, I mean, that's great that my color's doing better, but what about the looseness? And I think that's one of the easiest ways to shut yourself down. So for me, I choose to get really excited about all these little breakthroughs that I'm able to have around color in this painting. And I trust that there are going to be paintings in the future where I really get to dial in on other areas of what I love about Sargent's work. Now, with that being said, let's talk about some of the things you can focus on in your own work when you are creating an original work of art that is inspired by a master painting that you have learned from. First things first, make sure your reference is dialed in. I've already spoken to this enough times, I won't reiterate it now, but as you're about to see, this really is the most important foundational layer to have in place. The reason being is, let's take a look at an area where I had some difficulty, which was actually in the painting of her eyes. This is typically an area where I love to just go wild. I really love zeroing in on eyes. I'm usually pretty confident when I paint them, where even if I feel that I'm making a mistake, I trust that I can bring it home. Now, for this particular piece, I definitely got into trouble with the eyes in a couple of instances. Just times where I think I was like getting into shapes that were too small, values that had a little bit too much contrast, typical mistakes that are easy to make in that given area. The helpful piece about having done the master study before this is that I could literally look at my master copy that I had painted next to the piece that I was working on, and I could literally take a look at the eye area and ask, how did I break it down in the previous painting? And if I've been thoughtful about choosing a reference that matches very well with the master painting that I'm learning from, I should actually see the solution to the problem I'm encountering. And that's what this process is all about. It's about finding creative ways to problem solve and to do that with as much support and as clear of steps as you can muster. Looking at the way that Sargent painted the eyes gave me clues as to what values to limit myself to, what colors to mix for areas such as the crease in the upper lid, information such as how hard should the edges of the iris be, how bright should the highlights in the eyes be, or how many brushstrokes should I actually take to paint this particular area. And I was able to apply this thinking throughout the rest of the painting, whether I was taking a look at the flesh tones, the lips, the hair, you name it. And one important consideration here is that it is okay if you aren't able to accomplish everything in one painting. I know that sounds kind of silly as I say it out loud, but I think that we do really put a tremendous amount of pressure on ourselves when we are doing master copies and we're trying to bring it into our own work. Even if we intellectually understand that we shouldn't try and achieve all things at once, naturally, and I see this over and over again, we really do want to check all of those boxes at one time. But the thing is that doing the master copies, the reason that this is so powerful is that you start to get an intuitive sense of how to paint like that painter. That's what helps you to be able to look at a reference that your favorite painter has never looked at before, but that you understand how they might tackle that problem, or how you might tackle that problem as informed by what you know about the way that they worked. Wow, that sentence was a mouthful, but I hope you followed me through it. And developing that intuition, that takes time. That takes repetition. Sure, we might think of instinct as something that is innate to us, but when it comes to skills like mastering a craft, no matter what that craft is, it is not something that is born to you. So as I take a look at this painting that I have done today and the master copy that came before it, I'm okay with this not having accomplished every goal that I have for myself as a painter. I'm okay with this not having perfect looseness or ideal economy of brushwork. Instead, I can really appreciate the measurable, palpable gains that I have had in terms of things like the color harmony and understanding how to really control my value structure and the range of colors that I'm introducing into the skin tones here. Over time, I can repeat this process and I can help those instincts to become even more ingrained. And that in turn is going to free my brain up to really focus then on something like the looseness or whatever area I happen to want to pursue next. In this case, as I take a look at this painting that I have been working on, I'm really excited by it. And here's what I would like to do. I really want to keep working on this painting, and I want to just explore those colors and those values even further. And what you see me explore probably isn't going to be revolutionary. What you see at the end of this video probably isn't going to look that dramatically different from the final piece that I end up with. But I want to give myself time to really pursue that enthusiasm and that intrigue that I have. So I want to go ahead and wrap this video up here. I think I've given you enough to tinker with that you can start your own master study and original painting that is informed by it. And then next week, I want to share with you the results of continuing to fine-tune this and any additional insights that I found after letting myself simply sit with this painting and, I don't know, find out any other secrets it has for me. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this video series, or you have tried out this entire process for yourself and you've really gotten a lot out of it, and if you want that much more help in terms of having additional tools and exercises like this one to really help you to reach your unique goals for your painting practice, I am here to help. So if you've gone through this process, you loved it, you knew it was effective, and you really wanted to take it one step further, I have a link in the description below to reach out to see if we are a fit to work together, and I would love for you to apply. All right, until next time, if you have any questions about this entire process of doing the master copy, creating an original based on it, or even what I'm about to do now, which is sitting back down to this piece to further refine it and really just throw myself into exploring as far as I can take this particular piece, let me know in the comments below, because I would love to speak to them in the next video. All right, until then, happy painting.